Hi everyone, welcome back to another Motivation Monday video. And today I'll be talking about why learning to fail without losing yourself is a skill that we all need to learn, especially in the UPSC journey. Honestly, this was a topic that I was scared to make a Motivation Monday about because I'm not someone who has seen success in the UPSC examination yet. I have given multiple attempts and I still haven't been able to clear prelims. So I kept thinking, am I really the right person to speak about this? But after a lot of thinking and a lot of overthinking, I've come to the conclusion that perhaps I am. Because my academic journey up until UPSC had been, I would say, quite successful. I finished my graduation with a distinction, and then I finished my post graduation with a top 10 rank in my university. And in my entrance examinations for both UG and PG, I managed to secure government seats. So when I entered the UPSC universe as a rather clueless aspirant in my first attempt, I was quite naive. And I thought if I just work hard and remain consistent, I'll eventually get there. But what I didn't know was how difficult consistency would become for me. And as the years went by, I faced multiple failures in the UPSC exams. The first time I didn't clear prelims, I told myself, okay, I wasn't really prepared this time. It wasn't a real attempt. Who clears UPSC in their first attempt anyway? I'll do it the next time, definitely. And then the second attempt came and went, and then I had some other explanations to give. Then came the next attempt, and the next after that. And as my failures accumulated, something very subtle began to happen. I stopped thinking I failed in an examination and I started thinking that I am a failure. Maybe I'm not capable of this. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I don't have it in me. And that shift from I failed to I am a failure is incredibly subtle, but it also is incredibly damaging. Because, at least in my case, this thought process hasn't remained confined to my UPSC prep alone. It has affected how I see myself, my self confidence, my self worth, how I interact with the people around me. And that's why I think today's topic is very important, and I'm going to talk about three important things. First, I failed is not the same thing as I am a failure. Second, don't turn failure into a verdict, turn it into information. And finally, the real danger isn't failure itself, it's what we do to ourselves afterwards. First things first, a failed attempt is one event in our life, and our life is so much larger than that one event. A result can tell us something about what happened. Perhaps our strategy didn't work. Perhaps we underestimated the amount of preparation that was required, or we overestimated how much we had prepared. Perhaps the timeline wasn't realistic. Perhaps there were things that we could have done differently, and something else need to change. But what a result cannot logically tell us is that we are incapable human beings. That is an identity judgment that we add ourselves. So, the first thing we need to learn is to separate the event from the identity. You failed an examination, you failed an interview, or you failed at business, or you failed at something that you really cared about. That is something that happened to you, and it does not automatically imply who you are. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that again and again until we begin to believe it. Because having that belief is very important. Second, don't turn failure into a verdict, rather, turn it into information. This, I think, is particularly important for us UPSC aspirants. When I failed my prelims multiple times, I sometimes stopped asking, what does this result tell me? And started asking, what's wrong with me? See, they are two completely different questions, and the second one does not help us really move forward in any manner. So yes, there will be an emotional phase after a result, and we need to let ourselves have it. Cry, be disappointed, be angry, and take some time. We don't have to turn a failure immediately into a productivity lesson. But once you are ready to look at that result objectively, start asking, what did I underestimate or overestimate? Or what did I avoid doing? What worked for me and what didn't? Which part of my strategy needs to change? Where do I need to put more effort? And what can I do differently for my next attempt? Because then the result becomes a data point, and that data can be incredibly valuable. It can help us identify patterns, redesign our strategy. It can even become a blueprint for what we can do next. But the moment we turn the same result into a verdict about who we are, we stop learning from it. And that's the difference. A result can be an information without becoming your identity. And last but definitely not the least, the real danger isn't failure, it's what we do afterwards. See, in my previous Motivation Monday video, I said something that I want to repeat here. Consistency isn't about never falling off the track, it is about choosing to return as soon as you can. And I think the same principle applies to failure as well. We don't need to become people who will never ever fail in life. That is unrealistic. Instead, we need to become people who, when they fail, can grieve, can learn, can adapt, and still return. So, if you're watching this after a disappointing result, perhaps you thought you were close, perhaps you genuinely believed that this was going to be your attempt. Perhaps, like me, you're sitting with a result that you didn't want. I just want to tell you something as a fellow traveler. I don't think failure becomes painless just because we learn how to deal with it. Sometimes it still hurts. We're still disappointed. We still question ourselves. We still question our preparation, our choices, and sometimes even our luck. And that's okay. Because when I say learn to fail, I don't mean that you don't care about the failure. I mean learning that disappointment doesn't have to become self destruction. So, the next time something does not go according to your plan, let yourself be disappointed. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself ask what went wrong. Learn from it. Change what needs to change. And then return. But please don't turn one failed chapter into a definition of your entire story. You failed at something, you're not a failure. And perhaps learning to fail isn't about becoming fearless. It isn't about becoming careless about failure either. Perhaps it's simply learning to say, this hurt, this did not go the way I wanted it to, but I'm still here. And sometimes that's enough to begin again. So, one more attempt, one day at a time, and I'll see you in the next video.